Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Today we have a Survivor video. We're going to be talking about some underrated seasons, and I didn't want to do this alone. So today we got RussellMuscle TV here to talk with us about underrated seasons. RussellMuscle TV, tell us about your channel.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me here today, Skylander. I love talking about Survivor, and I love all these collabs that all us small YouTubers are doing together, talking about Survivor, things we love, things we hate about it. A little more about me though is I'm doing a daily Survivor retrospective series going from season 1 to season 40, talking about every single season, every single day. I'm over on my channel, and I'm kind of doing this as a way to build up to season 41. So if that sounds interesting to you, come check me out. But yeah, I'm excited for this video.
Yeah, if you guys like daily Survivor content, make sure to go subscribe to RussellMuscle TV. His channel link will be in the description for this video. But yeah, like I said, today we're going to be talking about underrated Survivor seasons that we don't think get enough love from the Survivor community, but we hold close to our hearts. And Russell, since you're our guest, why don't you go first? What's one underrated season in your opinion?
All right, here we go. I'm ready for a lot of hate in this video. I'll be in the comments all the time in this video. So if you want to argue with me, let's have a civil debate. Let's not have a big argument. Let's keep it civil. But I'd love to debate with you guys in the comments, any of these hot takes, and see where that goes. But my first one here is Survivor All-Stars. So a lot of people don't like the season, and I mean, it does get dark at points, but there's a lot to be loved about this season and a lot about its legacy as well. This is the introduction to Rob and Amber together on Survivor, and that is really important when you look at the long history of Survivor. So, looking at it from a micro sense about the season going on and on, it does get really, really dark. But when you look at the bigger picture, this might be one of the most important seasons of Survivor ever. Now, if you ask anyone on the street, the first person they'll probably think of is Boston Rob now, right? He's one of the most recognizable faces of the franchise. And this is where it really all begins with Rob and Amber's relationship. And so because of that, Rob is so important to Survivor overall. I think this season needs to be treated better for that. And also, this is the introduction to the ride or die alliance between Rob and Amber. You have these two making it to the end of the game. Obviously, 2 votes is more powerful than 1 vote. And it's become such a powerful thing here in this season that if you ever see 2 players coming together in a close relationship, there's always someone that has to be voted out right away because that's just too powerful. What do you think about this season?
Yeah, no, I agree that it is probably the single most important season of Survivor. I mean, when I first, watched All Stars, like, who's Rob, who's Amber? Both people that wasn't interesting. I mean, Rob didn't even make the jury. Amber wasn't interesting, right? Yeah, no, looking at it now, though, it is such an important season of Survivor. You get the Rob Amber relationship. I mean, who knows where Survivor would be without the Rob and Amber relationship? And just the chances of it happening, them being both on the same tribe, them both being there in the merge, them both being there after the swap, it's insane. I do think it does get pretty dark at some points with the Sue and Rich stuff, the Jenna stuff, which is really sad. Like, 2 people leaving the game in All Stars, not because they got voted out, is really hard to watch. I mean, and also just the way the winners were treated, I didn't like it that much. I just was really predictable knowing all the winners would probably go out pre-merge, and then the big flip against Rob and Lex. I think it was interesting the first time when Rob was like, "I'm sorry, I got to do this" or whatever. But rewatching it, it's really just tough to watch that, and then see how everyone's so bitter at the end, and then seeing Amber win the game after you clearly saw Rob dominate the entire game, even if his dominance was pretty flawed. It is kind of hard to watch. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, and so I have 2 cons I have written down in my notes is the 2 quits. Obviously, the one situation I don't really count as a quit with Jenna.
Yeah, I don't count that either.
I count that more of she left the game, right? She left Survivor, and she probably shouldn't have came out there, and she made the wrong choice to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
But she made the right choice in life, right? She should have left the game. Good for her. The Rich and Sue situation is really tough and really, really hard to watch. One of the worst moments in Survivor ever. So for that reason alone, I understand the distaste people have towards the season and just the darkness overall. I do understand that. And you got to think about it, though. It was a different time for Survivor. All these people together, Survivor was one of the most popular shows on TV. These people were becoming not just Survivor famous, like popular, they're becoming like worldwide sensations, and they have became like really close really fast, all the players from all these first couple of old school seasons. And so when they went to go play All Stars together, they became really close and real friends. And so they can't show the pregame stuff on the show TV, but you just see all the darkness, the betrayal. Like it's hard to watch at points. I do agree with that. But overall,
like,
that's my first pick.
Yeah, I mean, also Lex like comes off as super hypocritical as well.
Yes, 100%.
Like he just voted off Colby and Ethan, two of his like best friends, I'm pretty sure, outside the game, and then he gets mad at Rob because he's flipping on him. I mean, yeah, I mean, all these people should have realized that they're playing Survivor. Like, I don't know if they like that really went through the head. Like, they're playing Survivor to net to backstab people, even though you're all friends with each other. Because like Survivor, people played Survivor back in only season 8 was a super close community because no one else could have the same experience as them except for people that played on Survivor, and that was always going to hurt this season probably in the long run. But I do look at it better than most people do. I think I just genuinely like returning player seasons more than regular seasons most of the time, just because it's returning players. But if I had to rank All Stars, it'd probably be somewhere I would say in the 20s, maybe like 27th, I don't know, 26th. That's what I put it.
Yeah, I would. Let me pull up my ranking I have overall here. Yeah, so I have All Stars in my A tier. So if you guys don't know, on my channel, I've been ranking every season at the end of my videos from double S tier all the way down to F tier. And to give a comparison, right now I have Fiji at the very, very bottom. So All Stars is in the top half for me.
No, I can see why people like it. But just for me personally, yeah. I just don't like it as much, but I do like it more than most people. And my first underrated Survivor pick is one of the newer seasons. Actually, it's Edge of Extinction. I really like this season. And I don't know why it gets so much hate. I think people look at it like the way they do because Chris won. But I mean, I don't care that much. I don't really care that much about a person who wins the season if it is choreographed well. I think Chris's is choreographed his win as well as it could have with him being voted out third. I really just love this. I really like here's an example, right? I was like going on a trip somewhere. It would take like 13 hours to go, this really long car ride. And the season I chose to watch on that car ride was Edge of Extinction. And I loved every single second of it. I think the pre-merge is fantastic. The Reem vote out, the Keith vote out, the Chris vote out, which is really weird now looking back at it with him winning the game. The Rick vote out was really emotional. Aubrey being voted out was such a big blindside. Wendy being voted out, that was cool. And then you get the Joe blindside. I like that. The Eric blindside, that was really cool. I guess the actual blindside itself for Julia wasn't as good, but the actual tribal that came before that was really fun to watch. Although I do think it kind of slows down with the David vote offs and the Kelly vote offs right after that. I think the game kind of slows down right there, but then it comes back with War Dog, the War Dog episode, the Great Tribal Council where Ron tries to play Rick Devens and to make him think that this advantage menu still works, and then Devens just blindsides him right back after that. That was cool, and I think the finale is amazing. I mean, after Chris comes back, you really see him play is like as hard as he can for being the third person voted out of the game. He plays the best game he could have, in my opinion, for a person that just got voted out and came back. And I think that it's so impressive to see Chris get votes from like David, people who like really love the game, people like Joe who really love the game, even though he was voted out third. I think the season is really enjoyable to watch. Your opinions?
Yeah, I'm gonna play both sides here.
All right,
because I also really like this season, but I also understand the hate it gets. So the issue is, it depends on how you want to watch Survivor. If you're watching Survivor for pure entertainment and you want to watch good TV, this might be one of the best seasons for that. There's so much fun to be had here, and the entertainment value is so high, and there's so many interesting stories and dynamics going on throughout the entire season. However, there is a lot of issues here. Like when looking at Survivor as an entertainment, it's good. But when you're looking at Survivor on the different aspect and you want to see it more as maybe like a sport or as a fair game, like as a true game, then it's not fair seeing Chris get voted off third and still winning the season. but I'm not on that line of things where I don't think it's a good season that way. I actually love this season as well. It's super entertaining. It's
Mhm.
kind of weird to watch because after the third vote off, nothing really matters until the finale when Chris comes back to win the game.
Mhm.
But Chris's final performance is amazing. I see this season more as a bunch of short stories that are great isolated within each other. It's not really one dynamic, really overpowering big story. It's a bunch of short stories, few episodes at a time. We have Reem amazing on Edge of Extinction.
Mhm.
And personally, I'm kind of over Edge of Extinction. I don't really want to see it back
Oh
again.
yeah, me too.
But for the season we had it in, and for this great season of television, I'm glad we got to experience it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, just think about it. If it wasn't for Edge of Extinction, like Rick is probably Rick Devens is probably like super forgettable, right? But because of Edge of Extinction, we know Rick is a good player, right? I mean, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't know that. And obviously, I do agree. It's very unfair that someone who was voted out third was able to come back on day 35 and win the game. I do get that from a Survivor perspective, but I watch Survivor more for entertainment and to really like dissect the game and
Mhm.
like do this that. I still do that because I am such a big Survivor fan. But at the end of the day, I think it's very enjoyable to watch. Seeing Rick Devens come back and seeing him play was really entertaining, and especially that stretch in the finale where Chris plays as athletes. You could have watched him do all like crazy stuff. I mean, he was able to get Lauren to play her idol for him after she held it for like what 36, 35 days. That's insane,
Yeah.
right? So it's Edge of Extinction might actually like be in my top 10. I'm not sure. I haven't ranked all the seasons, but it very well can be in my top 10. That's what I think about Edge of Extinction.
Yeah, I haven't made my Edge of Extinction video yet, so I don't want to give spoilers on where I specifically rank it, but it's in the upper half for me as well. We're on the same page. It's a great season of Survivor. Want me to move on to my next pick?
Yeah.
Okay, next up, another polarizing one. We have Survivor Cook Islands. People love it, and a lot of people hate it as well. I just made my video on Survivor Cook Islands, so I'm pretty fresh with this one in my head. I can talk about it for a pretty long time. Um, Other than Survivor All Stars and Survivor the Amazon, which the videos kind of got some negative reception. This video on Cook Islands got probably the most negative reception out of all my videos so far.
Really?
People either loved it and they agreed with me, but there was also a lot of people that told me, "No, you're wrong. This is an awful season of Survivor." I was like, "Whoa, what do you mean?" um, and right out the gate, the reason I love it so much, and I think, is because it was the first season of Survivor I ever fully watched. And
Mhm.
being my first season of Survivor, I think it adds a lot of weight to anyone's viewing experience. People in the comments were like, "Yeah, my first season was season 21, and I guess that's why I see it so highly." I'm like, "Yeah,
Mm.
100%. Whatever your first experience is with this show that we all fell in love with, you're gonna love it, and it's gonna hold a special place in your heart." So right out of the gate, that's the reason I think it's better than what most people give it credit for. But then
Mhm.
we also have so many important characters that play a key role in later seasons. We have, okay, Yule, the winner, one of the greatest winners of all time. We
Mhm.
have Penner, we have Parvati, we have Ozzy right there. Some of the most recognizable faces of the franchise. These people are so popular, and this is where they started in this 20-player season. And we
Mhm.
also have another reason it's so compelling of a story is the I-24, the underdog story of the I-24 coming together and being able to survive out and beat the other tribe where at one point they were down in numbers 8-4 is kind of like insane to think about. And so I love the story they're trying to tell. I understand there is problems with the season. The edit is kind of all over the place, and you really, unless they're the main characters, you're not going to get any screen time from them. And Survivor wasn't really ready for having those 20-player casts, and so there's a lot of forgettable characters. But it's just it's a great season for me. What do you think?
And that's what I was gonna point out. The problem with this season is right. You do have amazing characters. Ozzy. This is Parvati's first season, right? And Kenner, even Candace to some extent. But there's also like not like major non-factors on the season. Like who's Cecilia, right? Who's
Yeah.
Stephanie? Who's Jessica Smith? Um, and overall, I think I disagree. I think now to be fair, I haven't watched Cook Islands in a while. It's probably been a
Mhm.
couple of months. But I remember watching it. I kind of felt bored. I don't really
Mhm.
know how to explain it, right? Because I mean, you do have like all these like forgettable figures, right? They go like who's Brad, right?
Yeah.
But watching the actual main characters is super fun. Like watching Jonathan Pinner is super fun. I think this is probably Parvati's like worst outing, if I'm being honest, but still, it's Parvati. We've seen Ozzy absolutely dominate the physical game. That was cool. And then seeing Ozzy lose to Yule. I think this is where it really started, that like strategic game and social game can be physical game. This is like one of the first seasons to like really bring that home. Like you can say like Usher and Outback, but they didn't really show it all that much. I think this is like where like really hard strategic gameplay started. I'll give it that. There are definitely good moments, like watching Sandra and Becky take hours to stew a fire. I really like that moment, actually. I think that's really funny, and like how they eventually have these matches or something. It's really weird, but I do think there's definitely like pretty boring stretches of the season, like from like the Brad vote off to the Nate vote off. That's kind of weird, and also the fact that there's three pre-merged jury members. Like what? That's so weird, right?
Mhm.
If I had to give an overall ranking, once again, probably being around 26th place, 25th place, around that. I would probably give it like a 6 out of 10. I would recommend it. It's Survivor. I would recommend really neat Survivor season besides Thailand. But that's what I think about it.
Yeah, and overall, I obviously rank this season much higher. I have it as a top 8 season of all time. So I really, really do enjoy this season. But I obviously I do understand the hate with it. What's your next pick?
All right, my next pick is Vanuatu. And look, I know Vanuatu's pre-merge, right? It obviously is not the best, but I mean that merge is just so good in my opinion, right? I mean, watching Rory, Lee, like Chad go home, that's kind of weird. But then like it really, really, like once Chris is like the final male, and the fact that he's able to stay and win the game is so fun to watch. Watching Chris play the game he plays is really fun to watch. I mean, the Leanne Blindside is so fun to watch in my opinion. Amy Blindside, really fun. The Julie Blindside, I mean, all the blindsides that happen in the season is really fun to watch. I do think Chris makes a really bad move and voted out John, the final pre-merge player. But still, I think the season's really fun to watch. I do agree that the pre-merge isn't the best, but that merge is just really good, and I think it really helps out the season.
Yeah, and right there with how the pre-merge is kind of bad and the post-merge is amazing, is kind of why I kind of rank this season somewhere in the middle, just because of how hard that pre-merge is to watch. And you say it right there. Like this season, like ages just like fine wine. I think it gets better as it goes on, and if you're able to get through that first few hard episodes of the season, then you're really gonna enjoy yourself. But I remember when I went to go rewatch the season, I stopped. Like I gave up on the season in the pre-merge because I was like, wow, this is pretty bad Survivor. And eventually I was like, okay, I need to get through this season. So I sat through it, got through the pre-merge. And once you get through it, it gets into a really, really good Survivor. The blind sides, the Chris making it through the end. Chris has one of the best final tribal council performances of all time by just straight up lying to the jury and to make sure that he tells them exactly what they want to hear. And like it's tough. Like I rank this season in like my C tier, so it's in the bottom half. But and that's just because I couldn't rank it any higher because I couldn't get through it on my first rewatch. But the post merge has so much amazing stuff in it, and it's really good Survivor. And so it's weird. It's like a tale of two stories. Like if you can watch just the post merge, maybe top 5 season of all time. Yeah.
Also, I'm so sad that Chris has never came back. He's such a fun character. But I will say, I do think there are episodes of the pre-merge that are good. I think that the first episode is a pretty good episode in my opinion. And I also think the episode where Lisa gets voted out is also a pretty good episode. I mean, just the Rory stuff in the pre-merge I thought was pretty good to watch in my opinion. That's what I think. I think that couple stretches episode where Rory's on like the female tribe, he's like the only guy there, or like one of the only guys there, is pretty fun to watch. But I do agree that it's tough. The pre-merge is pretty tough to watch. But if you can get past that, I do think it like that post-merge, like I mean, one of the best post-merges ever. But because the pre-merge, I think today it'd probably get, for me, around 11th, 10th, 9th place this season overall. I really like Vanuatu, but I do agree that the pre-merge is not that good.
Yep. And moving on to my final pick, we're doing 3 each here. My final pick, I got Survivor. Game changers.
Mm.
Before I get into it, what are your initial thoughts on this season? I know this is a very controversial season.
Okay, you might not believe this, but I agree with you. I like
Really?
Survivor Game Change. Yeah, I like I like Survivor Game Change. I do think this season has some merit. So yeah, you want to talk about it though, since it's your season?
Yeah. So Survivor Game Changers, I have it in as my top in my top 10 seasons of all time. I love this season. Okay, I understand. The only negatives are really the same negatives with All Stars, and it gets really dark at points.
Mm-hmm.
You have the whole Jeff Varner situation, which is just awful television and awful moments just in general. And how does Jeff Varner get invited back for a third time?
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
Overall, like, right? Like Survivor must have seen something crazy in this guy being asked back time after time. And then you also get some pretty dark stuff behind the scenes with between Sarah and Andrea. Oh, how do you say her name? Andrea. Yeah, there you go. You get some pretty dark stuff behind the scenes with those two as well. So like the season is dark, but there's also like a lot of fun to be had. And like the Survivor community, like online, they loves to joke around like, oh, Troy's in, he's not on this season and stuff. So I like the memes that come out of the season too.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back at it from like, I think this season's aged overall, looking back at it from after season 40, because you get Cagayan, season 28, obviously seen as a top tier Survivor season, and you see the introduction to Cops R Us between Tony and Sarah. And then you get this season, Sarah ends up winning the season, kind of betrays Tony for Cops R Us, and then coming back at Winners at War, you get the full reunion of Cops R Us. They come back together, they play the game strong together till almost the very, very end. And when you look at it that sense as like the 3-arc overarching storyline of Cops R Us, I think that's crazy to watch, and it's really cool television.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same kind of thing why I love Survivor All-Stars so much. Not in the sense of the season itself, but when you're looking at the grand picture of Survivor, seeing Cops R Us go from season Cagayan to Game Changers here into Winners at War, it's really, really cool to watch. The moment itself, I don't like Malcolm going home, but I think the Malcolm vote off is really interesting.
Oh yeah, the tribal is great. Like the actual tribal itself is a great tribal, but watching Malcolm go home is kind of hard.
Yeah, seeing Malcolm go home on day 11 is really hard to watch, but the tribal council itself is insane. And this is, you love it or hate it, this is the introduction here of the standing up and the whispers at tribal council, which I think we see too much of it now.
But it's actually good this season, right? Like it's actually good.
Yeah, it's good this season, and it's game changing, right? It's really cool to see here. We see it too much now, but the introduction of it here was really, really cool. And again, like it's hard to consider it a positive moment because it's a hard moment to watch. But the crazy moment of Sari going home from advantage getting from everyone else being immune is crazy to watch.
Yeah,
right?
That's crazy.
This season has a lot of like stand up, like throw your hands around crazy moments, and that's why I think it's holds up so well.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest problem with the cast, another cast. My biggest problem with the season is the cast. Let me go through people I don't think like Caleb. Why is he on the season? Right, Jeff Varner. Why is he on the season? Why is Haley on the season? Why is Debbie on the season? Why is Zeke on the season? Why is Sierra on the season? Like, why is Michaela on the season? Why is Andrea on the season? Why is Troysian and Brad Culpepper on the season? Why is the winner Sarah Lucina on the season? Like, there's so many questionable like decisions they made. But at the end of the day, like I think it's a overall, if it wasn't called Game Changers, I think it's a pretty strong returning player cast. There are some clunkers in there. That's what I think about the cast. I do think like if you watch Cagayan, Game Changers, and Winners at War back to back, it's almost like a perfect trilogy. I mean, seriously. Seeing Tony win and Sarah win and Tony win again in Winners at War is so fun. However, like I said, there is like the dark stuff. I mean, the Jeff Varner, like it's hard to watch the Jeff Varner stuff, obviously, right? It's hard to watch, but it does kind of put this negative cloud over the season for the rest of the season. But if you don't look at that, even though it's a pretty big thing, this season's great. I mean, the pre-merge is fantastic. I mean, the first episode with Sierra and Tony going home, that's pretty good. I mean, the Caleb episode's kind of ho-hum, but the Malcolm episode where he goes home, the tribal's amazing. The JT episode, that's pretty good too. The Sandra vote off, that's really good too. We get the Jeff, that's not the best, but I think it picks up once again back in the merge and seeing Sarah play the way she does. I mean, I think this is one of the best wins in Survivor history. Sarah's Game Changers win. Obviously, the street thing isn't good, but like as a TV moment, I think it's pretty fun watching like all these other people who have advantages and stuff are able to save themselves, and because she's the only one person that doesn't have an advantage, he goes home. Obviously, like as a Survivor thing, that's not that good. But if you're watching on TV for the first time ever, like it's really interesting to watch, right?
Yeah. And I think if you're looking at this season a lot like we're looking at Edge of Extinction, then you can see it as a positive as well. Like if you're watching this season for like you want to see it as a fair game, you want the analytics, diving really deep into it. Then no, this season, especially how it's edited, is not that good. But if you're watching the season for purely the entertainment factor, minus a few of the really dark moments, there's a lot of really good stuff here.
Mm-hmm. And it's part of the Cop Stars trilogy as well. It's kind of weird that one of the members of Cop Stars is barely on this season, but still, like I said, if you watch like I watched Kage-on Game Changers and Winners at War back to back, like I said, and I really enjoyed it because I wanted to watch the Cop Stars trilogy again. I do think unironically funny moment is when Troyzan gets his idol, like he's like just on the table, just like hugging the table or whatever, like, and no one notices. I think that's pretty funny. But overall, I don't know if this season's in my top 10, but it's definitely not the bottom for me. It's probably around 12th, 13th place. I do think the season does have merit.
Yeah, awesome. Let's move on to your final pick.
All right. My final pick is Survivor 29 San Juan del Sur. And I really enjoy this season. It's in my top 10 personally, but I don't see a lot of other people talk about this season. Like, I don't know why. It feels like a forgotten season of Survivor because I think this season is really fun to watch. I mean, first of all, Nadia going home, then her sister winning the game is so interesting that, like, the first vote off her sister wins the game. John Rocker going out with Idol's pocket. That's great. The Drew Christie blindside. That's amazing. We do kind of get these two mediocre episodes with Kelly and Dale both going home, who I think both Kelly and Dale are. Well, we obviously know Kelly's a better player than in this season, but I think Dale's actually a super underrated player. I really like Dale. I mean, the fact that he's able to survive those initial tribal councils and like he's an old guy, but he actually fits in with his tribe is great. The Julia quit, like that's whatever. She wasn't an interesting character anyway. The Jeremy blindside, that's amazing. I mean, watching Wes go home because his dad idled him out of the game essentially, that's pretty cool. Reed's a great character who should come back. I have no idea why he hasn't come back. The John Mish blindside, it's amazing. The Baylor blindside, that's even better. I mean, watching Natalie this is such good gameplay from Natalie. Like looking at Jacqueline saying, "Jacqueline, did you vote for I told you to?" Like it's such a boss move. It's really fun to watch this season. What are your thoughts on the season?
Yeah, right there. And I rank this season of Survivor in like my top half 100%. I don't know if I rank it as high as you do, but again, like this season, I think gets a lot of hate and a lot of negative comments from the community just because right around the merge, you get Josh and Jeremy going home back to back. And those are kind of like your big build up throughout the whole pre-merge is you have Josh versus Jeremy. They're going to come together and it's going to be a big battle. It ends up not being a big battle, right? They go home back to back. And so you're kind of left wondering, like, what else is there to watch this season? It gets kind of confusing. And so I think that's kind of why the big thing of the negative aspect of it. And there's also like, the best iteration of Redemption Island was actually, I think, the original Blood versus Water. So not having it here I was actually disappointed in, and I don't like the hero duels or the whatever they called them.
Those were actually supposed to be the Redemption Island. If you didn't know, they actually we're going to have Redemption Island, and if you guys didn't know, they were going to have a Redemption Island this season. I don't know what happened, but
Mike
apparently
White
cut. Yeah, Mike White. It was like what Mike White this apparently Mike White had something to do in the decision, and they cut it, but they kept the Redemption Island thing and turned them into hero duels. That's kind of weird, obviously, right? But I mean, it's whatever, really.
Yeah, but other than that, like the story arc of Nadia going home first, and Natalie winning the game, everything with Natalie blindsiding, saying, "Oh, when after Jeremy was voted out, she's gonna play behind the scenes and slowly plot to get John Mesh out of the game." The whole thing there's a few like kind of like cringy bad moments when you have the John and Jacqueline fight. That's not good TV to watch, I don't think.
Yeah,
but the Natalie story, for that alone, I think makes this season better than a lot of people give it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's top half season for me. 100%.
Wait, how did I forget to mention the stick to the plan moment? That's so good too. The stick to the plan moment. Oh, stick to the plan, and that causes it was a Westingham, I think, that tribal council. I mean, it was such a foolproof plan, and Keith just had to say stick to the plan. I mean, it's a fun TV movie for me. I think this season has a lot of underrated moments. So yeah, that's what I think about it. Like I said, this is easily my top 10, like maybe even top 5. I don't know. That's what I think about this season. So yeah.
So guys, overall, leave us your thoughts. Obviously, I had Survivor, Game Changers, Survivor, Cook Island, Survivor All Stars. Skylander, what were your picks?
Edge of Extinction, Vanuatu, and San Juan del Sur.
Yeah, and those were our seasons we think don't get enough recognition. You want to close out the video?
Oh yeah. So I mean, yeah. Tell us, guys, if you watch Survivor, what do you think your underrated seasons are? Because there's 40 seasons of Survivor, about 41. There's some seasons probably out there that don't get enough love as they should. Like I said, subscribe to Russell Muscle TV. His link is in the description. And thank you guys for watching.